Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Jedi. Today, we're going to be looking at Alexander the Great. And in yesterday's video, I mentioned that he was in the Bible, so I decided let's make a video solely about him. So, as always, let's go. So starting out with number one, the fact is that he's actually really smart, and he knew that he needed to surround himself with smart people to do the stuff he did. And one of the best ways that he did that, and you guys should do too, is the fact that he would always surround himself with really smart philosophers, and one of the most popular ones, Aristotle. And then the main reason that he did this was because he knew that if he had a bunch of smart people around him, he could make really smart decisions, and he wouldn't really mess around, and he wouldn't mess up in anything. So that's like a perfect tip right there for most of you guys who are looking to, kind of amp up your level where you are. Well, surrounding yourself with smart people is the number one thing, and probably the best thing to do. Number two is also just one of the coolest things that he's ever done, and this is probably like never, no one's ever going to be able to replicate this, but he was able to go 15 years in battle without ever losing. So he was undefeated for 15 years straight. And the fashion that he did this was like super amazing, because he would never just go at a battle head to head and just like fight it out. He was always using some kind of witty, smart technique to kind of get around the opponent, and he was always able to just completely pull apart the opponent's weaknesses and just completely expand and overuse his own like strengths. So he was really smart, and the way that he won battles were not always like grinding, just grinding it out and just toughing it. And most of the battles that he won were usually just purely based on smarts. Number three was Alexander the Great really loved himself, and who wouldn't love themselves, right? I mean, if you're named Alexander and your surname is supposedly by a lot of people the Great, that probably means that you like yourself, maybe a little. And one way that he showed this was he actually named 70 cities after himself. And anywhere he knew, he'd just name it Alexander this, Alexandria, Alexandra, and then stuff like that. And he would basically just throw his name all over. And there's still a place named Alexander the Great, which is being fought about by two different places. And at the end of the day, it's not really their discretion, because 70 cities were named after Alexander. So Alexander's future wife, Roxanne, when Alexander and Roxanne first met, it was actually love at first sight. They just got to know each other, and Alexander, of course, being the Great, was able to just, show her that he was amazing, and they fell in love, and they were married, and they lived pretty happily until, of course, he died. Number five is one of the things that Alexander started, and one kind of offsetting thing that not a lot of people knew, was the fact that he really smelled great. And he didn't really use any perfume or anything, but just his body smelled great, and that's one of the reasons a lot of people liked him. And he's one of the main reasons why a lot of people started using the whole like perfume and started using aroma to kind of make themselves smell good, because they said, well, if Alexander the Great smelled good, then I want to smell good because of the great things that he did. Number six was that Alexander was really fascinated with the Persians, and also with all of like the Middle Eastern and Indian side of Asia, and he was actually really fascinated by them, like past the Himalayas. And the reason he was really fascinated was because of the fact that they were really like luxurious, and the way that they lived, and the way that most of the men most of the men were respected. Alexander really liked their lifestyle and liked the way that they were. So when he beat them, he started dressing like them, and he basically created a mini Alexander town in Persia, and he basically made that his area, and he even let his own people mingle with the Persians and do stuff with the Persians normally. That's how much he admired Persia. Number seven, one of the greatest mysteries was his death. So it's stated that he did get a disease, like a fatal disease. We don't know exactly which one. A lot of people point to different ones like malaria or other small diseases, but at the end of the day, it's not certain what disease he got. And some people say that Alexander the Great was usually like always protected, and his food was always tested. So they don't know why he was able to get malaria from being at from being at home and not going out, because he wasn't like fighting anybody at his old age. And when he did die, well, he wasn't entirely old, but for that time, being the age that he died, it was pretty old, because it was around his 30s to 40s. So of course for now that's young, but when you're fighting people, that's pretty old. And the way that he died was really mysterious. No one exactly knew what disease he got or if he was poisoned. So that's the big mystery surrounding Alexander the Great. So number 8, it's kind of weird, but Alexander the Great's body was actually preserved in a vat of honey, and it was like a huge like embalming center that the Egyptians used. But of course, Alexander the Great had to be done differently, and they thought that putting him in honey would kind of help preserve, and that didn't really turn out too well. But it was definitely something that they thought and they tried, and that's just really cool fact now about Alexander the Great's death. Last up, so Alexander actually had a huge fascination with animals, and there were actually 2 specific animals that he was really fascinated with. Number 1, his horse. And the way he found his horse was his dad was trying to buy a horse, and somebody brought a horse, and Alexander the Great saw the horse. The horse was always like super, it wasn't too happy, it was kind of stressed out, and then the guy selling the horse basically wanted to lower the price because of the fact that the horse was super like stressed out, didn't really like most of the things that happened around it. And Alexander the Great's dad wasn't too inclined because of the facts that it was a very like stubborn horse. So then Alexander the Great decided to go onto the horse, and he turned the horse away from the sun because he realized that the horse was getting afraid of its shadow. So he turned it away, and then the horse didn't see its shadow anymore, so it was all calm. So then that horse and Alexander the Great became really close to each other. His dad bought him for him, and that horse was basically the horse that Alexander used until the end. And that was his first fascination. His second fascination was with elephants. When he first went into the Persian Indian side, when he first saw elephants, he could not believe the fact that there were animals this big, able to cause this much destruction. So he was actually about to lose a battle when he saw all these elephants, because he wanted to just go in and take over, but he knew he couldn't when he saw the elephants. Alright guys, so now it's time for my personal opinion on Alexander the Great. I do believe Alexander the Great is definitely the greatest conqueror of all time, and all the cool things that he did and the great things he did were all really done in a very efficient and smart way. So I think one of the main things that really set him off differently from other emperors and rulers was the fact that he didn't just depend on his strength and his people. It was mostly the fact that he actually was able to depend on the philosophers and people with strong educational guidance to actually help him make his decisions. So I think that's probably what helped him win a lot. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, guys. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram right there at Jedi.Solomon. Also, subscribe, guys. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, make sure you guys go drop me a like, share this video with your friends, comment on this video on Instagram, comment, like, description, bio, everywhere. Go there, amp it up, guys. I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.